I never thought refusing to let someone into my house to look at my curtains would end with flashing police lights in my driveway and me being accused of being an armed and dangerous man. That's exactly what happened, though. My HOA president called 911 on me, screaming lies into the phone while I stood there holding nothing more threatening than a mug of coffee. And the part she never saw coming. The dispatcher she was screaming to was my wife. That was the moment her whole reign of power started to collapse. It all began on what should have been a boring Tuesday morning. I was sitting in my home office, sipping coffee, working on a design project for a client, enjoying the peace and quiet of Redwood Estates. Our neighborhood was one of those planned communities, identical mailboxes, trimmed lawns, HOA rules that sometimes felt over the top, but for the most part reasonable. At least until Audrey Whitman took over as president. Audrey was 50, going on tyrant, always in an outdated business suit with a clipboard like she was running the Pentagon instead of a suburban HOA. That morning, right at 8:30, my doorbell rang, sharp and insistent, the kind of ring that immediately puts you on edge. Through the peephole, I saw her clipboard, digital camera paint samples in hand, face tight with determination. I opened the door, still in pajamas. Coffee in hand, and before I could say a word, she launched in, "Mr. Harrison, I'm here on behalf of the Redwood Estates Homeowners Association to conduct a mandatory aesthetic compliance verification." She waved the clipboard like it was a federal warrant. Then she dropped the bomb. My living room curtains were in violation of neighborhood harmony standards. I actually laughed, thinking she was joking, but she was dead serious. She held up 2 color swatches, explaining that my curtains read as sage mist instead of the approved desert sage. According to her, those subtle undertones disrupted the cohesion of the north-facing block. And then she demanded to come inside to inspect the curtains to measure light filtration patterns. That's when I told her no firmly. "You're not coming into my house to measure my curtains." Her whole demeanor shifted. The fake polite tone vanished. Her face hardened. "Non-cooperation triggers escalating enforcement protocols," she warned. She started snapping pictures of my house, muttering about documentation. I could see papers scatter when she dropped her clipboard blank forms from an office supply store, nothing official. I refused again, handed her the papers, and shut the door. A few minutes later, my neighbor Frank walked over, shaking his head. Frank had lived there 15 years, retired postal worker, knew everyone. He told me Audrey had gone off the rails after her divorce. Lost her house, moved into a rental, and now the HOA presidency was the only power she had left. But then he added something strange. How did she pay cash for a brand new Honda Civic when she was unemployed? That stuck in my head. Something about Audrey wasn't adding up. I told my wife Rebecca about it. She's been a 911 dispatcher for 7 years, sharp as a tack, calm, under pressure. She told me flat out, document everything. Take photos, save any papers. If she escalates, let me handle it. I didn't realize at the time how prophetic that was. By 2 o'clock, Audrey was back this time, waving a citation demanding an immediate $300 fine, plus $75 per day. It was printed in Comic Sans No Joke, and she was wearing a fake badge from Amazon that said, HOA Official. I told her again, "No, Audrey, you're not getting in." That's when she pulled out her phone and said the words that changed everything. "Then I'm calling the authorities right now." She dialed 911 in my driveway, pacing like she was reporting a hostage situation. I watched through my living room window, still holding my coffee. She shouted into the phone, "I need immediate assistance. There's a man here refusing lawful orders. He's aggressive and threatening. He could be armed." She gestured wildly at my house like it was a crime scene. My stomach dropped. I knew what she was doing. A false 911 call isn't just harassment. It can get someone hurt, even killed. For the first time, I felt real fear. Maybe I should just pay the fine, let her end it before this spiraled out of control. I almost convinced myself I was the one being unreasonable, but then I remembered Rebecca's words, document everything. Trust me. If Audrey was going to weaponize the system, she had no idea who she was up against, because the dispatcher who answered her call that was Rebecca. My wife's calm professional voice came over the line, 911. "What's your emergency?" And Audrey started spinning her web of lies louder and more dramatic with each sentence. He crossed his arms aggressively. She shouted. Rebecca typed it word for word. Subject, crossed arms while consuming morning beverage. Audrey claimed I could be destroying evidence of illegal window treatments. Rebecca logged it deadpan. And then my phone buzzed. A text from Rebecca, I know. I'm taking the call. Stay calm. That was the moment I stopped feeling powerless. Audrey thought she was pulling the strings, but every lie was being documented by someone who knew the truth and by someone she could never manipulate. 15 minutes later, 2 patrol cars pulled onto our street with lights flashing. My heart hammered. Even though I'd done nothing wrong, it's terrifying to see cops outside your house after someone's called you dangerous. Audrey ran to meet them, waving her clipboard, chest puffed out. Officers, thank God. This man threatened me, refused lawful HOA orders. She flashed her Amazon badge like it was FBI. The officer looked at me standing in my doorway, mug in hand, then back at Audrey. Ma'am, where's the weapon? Audrey stammered. Well, I didn't see one, but he was menacing with his beverage. The officer turned to me stone-faced. Sir, is that coffee a weapon I couldn't resist? I held it up. It's a latte, officer. Extra foam. Even the second cop cracked a smile. Then the radio crackled with a voice I knew by heart. Unit 23, this is dispatch. Caller reported armed subject obstruction of justice, requested tactical response. Can you verify the nature of the actual threat? Rebecca's voice filled the air. Audrey froze, staring at the radio like she'd heard a ghost. She muttered, That voice. It sounds familiar. The officer replied, Dispatch, no visible threat. Appears to be an HOA dispute about curtain inspection. Rebecca answered, Copy that. Curtain inspection dispute noted, and then the neighbors started stepping in. Frank walked over with video of Audrey demanding to come inside me, calmly refusing. Others chimed in Audrey had fined them for mailbox height doormat textures, even a garden gnome. The cops listened, patience wearing thin. Finally, the lead officer turned to Audrey. Ma'am, filing false emergency reports is a criminal offense. You called in an armed threat. We see a man drinking coffee. Do you understand the seriousness of this? Audrey's face turned crimson. She stammered about feeling threatened by my beverage, but the damage was done. The officers warned her one more false call and she'd face charges. They handed me a card, told me to document further harassment. As they drove off, I exhaled for what felt like the first time all day. But Audrey wasn't finished. She started digging, convinced there was a conspiracy against her. With the help of her cousin Larry, a wannabe paralegal, she found out Rebecca's full name. That's when the paranoia exploded. She realized she'd called 911 on the dispatcher's husband. Instead of backing down, she doubled down, filed complaints against Rebecca posted online. Rants about corruption, demanded investigations. But all it did was shine a brighter light on her own behavior. The Internal Affairs Review cleared Rebecca completely, praised her actually for her perfect documentation of a false report. Meanwhile, neighbors began rallying, collecting evidence that Audrey had been siphoning off HOA funds into her own shell company. The breaking point came at a community meeting. Audrey walked in with binders ready to expose her grand conspiracy theory. She pointed at Rebecca and me, shouting about collusion, holding up photos of me with coffee like it was incriminating evidence. The room sat in stunned silence. Then Frank stood holding bank statements. Audrey, let's talk about the $22,000 missing from our HOA account. Gasps filled the room. He laid out proof transfers to Whitman, consulting her fake company, plus testimony from neighbors fined for non-compliant bird feeders and mailbox fonts. The final nail was the recording of her 911 call, played aloud for everyone to hear. Her shrill voice demanding tactical units because of curtains filled the hall. By the end, the entire neighborhood was furious. The board voted unanimously to remove her and press charges. Audrey shouted, "This is a setup. You'll regret this," before storming out, tripping over a chair on her way. Not long after she was indicted. Embezzlement, false reports, harassment, the whole stack. In court, she tried to represent herself ranting about conspiracies blaming Rebecca for orchestrating everything. The judge wasn't impressed. He sentenced her to 18 months in jail restitution of over $30,000 probation. And my favorite part, banned her permanently from serving on any HOA board in the state. She screamed all the way out of the courtroom claiming corruption, dragging everyone down with her conspiracy theories. That's where it ended. Audrey lost her power, her money, her reputation, all because she couldn't handle someone telling her no about curtains. And the lesson: when bullies weaponize power, sometimes all it takes is one well-documented lie to bring their whole empire crashing down.